How much do you think you spent so far? Just a rough number. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're here with Ryan Schiesser.
Yeah.
Schiesser. Before we get into the car, we'd like to talk about how you got into track days.
Yeah, so kind of like a long story, but I used to have a Mazda Speed 3 that was pretty quick. It was like full bolt-on big turbo and E85. And when I was younger, I used to like roll race on the freeway, which wasn't a smart idea, but that's what we did back then because I didn't know stuff like this existed, and got caught with that. So parents were pretty pissed, and I live at home, so they were like, you either got to sell it or put it on a track. And I didn't even know that like Button Willow or like Willow Springs were like this close from my house or like anything like that. Like I thought like if you went to a track, you had to be like a licensed racer with like all that stuff. So I never knew stuff like that existed. So we took it to Button Willow, and it ran like a 204, I think, my first time, or like a 208 my first time, and then I went back into the 204 in that car, and it was set up to go in a straight line, so it was super scary. And then I saw a bunch of S2000s there, and I was never like a Honda guy in the beginning. Like, I actually kind of hated Hondas. And yeah, there was like 90% of S2000s there, so I was like, I kind of like these. And so I sold that car and then picked this up.
Got it.
And that's how I got into this. Yeah.
Gotcha. Was the Mazda 3 your first car then?
No, my first car was my grandma gave me and my sister like a 2003 V6 Mustang that was automatic. So we got to share that. So like I'd be trying to modify it, and she'd be like, "No, leave it stock." So
too loud.
Yeah, I was like, "Screw this!" I got a job and then bought my own car.
Got it. But before that, you off camera, you were telling me you were into motocross too.
Yeah. Yeah. So I raced motocross when I was little, and then when I turned 16 and got my license, that was like the transition into cars, because I don't know, it's more fun. Yeah. I think it's more. I mean, I do both still, but I think race cars are more fun. Cars in general.
Do you think the motocross helped you in sense of driving?
Yeah, I feel like your instincts are a little bit, like reflexes were probably a little bit faster, but like in the grand scheme of things, maybe not. I don't know. They're two like completely different spectrums, but I think if it would help you at all, rather than none, it definitely helps a little bit.
I would think it would, because you throttle in, you brake.
Yeah, definitely throttle control for sure. Yeah,
for sure. Okay. So your first track day was what track was that?
Button Willow.
Button Willow. Yeah. So you went out there with your Mazda 3, 400 horsepower. What did you get out of that event? Like as far as how the car handles?
Yeah. Well, the first thing, I was pissed because it was so fun, and I was like, I just wasted so much money on lawyer fees and paying tickets and going to court. I was like, I could have done this all along, because it's way more fun than, you know, going in a straight line on the street. Yeah. But as far as like what I pulled away from it, excuse me, I don't know. It's more like, I tell people like that either want to get into it, it's like going to a canyon but like on crack. Like it's just way more fun. And you're in a safe environment too, right? If something happens to you on the street and you're in the middle of nowhere, you're kind of screwed. You know, they have safety people there. So that, when me and my dad went, that kind of put him at ease, because he was pretty nervous at first. Because I was like 18 at the time, or 19. I might have just turned 19, yeah. So he was a little nervous.
So now you were saying that you're 22 now.
Yeah.
And you got this beautiful car. How long have you had it then?
3 years. 3
years.
Yeah, I got it like June of 2019, I think, somewhere around there. So like 3 years.
Okay. So do you have a dream car?
Yeah, I feel like everyone wants a GT3 RS. If you go to the track, you for sure want a GT3 RS.
Yeah, for sure. What about your favorite track?
Probably Button Willow. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's up the street, and I don't know, I feel like Chuckwalla would be like my second favorite, but for whatever reason, like Button Willow is just like that one track that has everything. Like you go to Chuckwalla and it's just wide, you know, you're flat out basically the whole track. Button Willow, it has more like Phil Hill's kind of hard to master, and like bus stop super hard. So like when you piece together a really good lap, it's like way more rewarding, I think.
Right.
Yeah.
What about Schiesser though?
I hate streets.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, the AP1 gearing, I think a lot of people would agree with me, because once you like kind of get towards like maxing out the car, the AP1 gearing, I think, sucks there. So like I've ran a 121.1 like 3 times in a row, and on like brand new tires, used tires, it doesn't matter. I can't get into the 20s. So I think it's gearing limited.
Yeah.
There's a couple corners where I'm either bogging or it's just banging on the rev limiter. So.
And the reason why you don't change the gearing is because for Buttonwillow?
Yeah, this AP1 gearing is amazing at Buttonwillow and Chuckwalla. I never really do Big Willow, so those 2 tracks, it's, I think, perfect in. AP2's probably around the same, but like I know guys running like super high and super tall gears or shorter gears in the diff, and they're like downshifting twice coming into a corner. Like Buttonwillow, Chuckwalla, I only have to downshift once, so it makes it more clean, I think.
Right.
Just trying to piece together a lap.
Okay. Do you have any friends at your age that are into trekking?
One of my buddies I actually just took to streets for his first time, and he really liked it. Yeah, in a C8 Corvette. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, definitely a pretty fast car to start out with. But yeah, I think he's hooked on it now. So I'll try and get him to like Buttonwillow or something.
In that sense, do you have any recommendations, or do you have any, I guess, recommendation to younger guys that are starting out?
Yeah, for sure. When I started out, I thought I was like the fastest guy there. Like, you kind of just have to humble yourself and like check your ego when you go there, because I think the first time I took this car to Buttonwillow, it was like basically stock. Like it had like lowering springs and like good pads and fluid. And like my second lap, or maybe it was the second time I went there, I don't know, like super new on. And I was in like intermediate maybe, and like I was running intermediate times, but I didn't have that like track awareness. So we're on like the second lap and it's cold outside, and I'm going down like through the S's after the sweeper at Buttonwillow, and I just hit the curb and it just threw me completely sideways. Like all of us were bunched up and I like almost hit the wall. Ooh. And that kind of like set me straight. I was like, all right, dude, so
you gotta calm down a little bit.
Yeah, right? When you first start out, like I told my buddy that I just went to streets with, like you can't go, you know, balls to the wall straight off of it, because like now I can do that. Like I have so many track days with this car, but when you're first starting out, definitely take it easy, because you don't want to, you know, hurt the car or hurt yourself thinking you're the fastest guy there.
Right.
Also, I think I try and tell people this a lot, is not overbuilding the car before you go, because I know a lot of guys, I almost did that with my Mazda. When I was like, oh, I need to go to the track, I was like, I need to put a splitter on it. So I did put a splitter on it, which actually helped, but I'm sure I could have taken it without a splitter.
Yeah, for sure.
So definitely like build your car in stages rather than like if I bought this car stock and in a month I threw all this stuff on it, it's like get to the track, like you can't learn a car that way. You got to progress with it as it gets more modified.
Right, because even a slightest change in your car makes quite a bit of difference in driving dynamics, right?
Yeah.
And we sometimes see like bone stock Camrys there.
Yeah.
And, you know, it looks odd, but it's pretty smart in a way, because you know you're not risking your expensive car. Basically.
Definitely.
And there's a lot to learn, I feel.
Yeah, like Civic's the perfect. I feel like a lot of people even have Civics as dailies, and they're like the perfect learning car. Right. Even if you're not going to stay in front wheel drive, you can still like learn, you know, the proper lines and braking points. Like it's like me with this car, I never knew how to heel toe in my old car, and I went like, I think I sub-2'd in this with not knowing how to heel toe, just because I have like weird long legs, so like to like move my hip like that is hard. I actually wish I learned how to heel toe way earlier. Like even that, just doing it in a not like a hard to drive car, definitely make your life a lot easier than going into it, you know, full force. Cool.
All right, Ryan, what are we looking at?
So this is my 2003 Honda S2000 AP1, and it's original Grand Prix white under the wrap.
Okay.
So that's like kind of the reason I wrapped it, is to protect it, because it's like, yeah, it is the rarest color, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, yeah. So I assume you bought it slightly used?
Yeah, it was definitely, I bought it with 141,000 miles, and it has 143 now. So yeah, pretty much bone stock when I bought it.
Yeah. What was the price range when you got it? Because you had it for 3 years, you said.
Yeah, I bought it during COVID, actually.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know. It has a rebuilt title, and I purposely wanted a rebuilt title car because I knew exactly what I was going to do to it. And when you spend like 30 grand on a clean title car and then blow it into a wall, you lose a bunch of money. So I picked it up pretty cheap. I think it was like 8 grand maybe.
Wow.
But I blew the motor a month after I got it, so that could have been part of the reason. I also didn't do my like research, and I had like a Wix filter on it, which is like huge. You have to run OEM filters on this. And I bought the car and I was like, oh, I'm gonna change the oil, like do all that stuff. And I just threw a random filter on it, and it spun a rod bearing like 2 or like 3 weeks after I bought it, maybe a month after I bought it. So yeah, but besides that, it's been solid.
Is that a common thing with the S2000? Because I never heard that before. If you have a Wix filter, it tends to blow?
It's not, if it's a Wix filter, it's just the OEM filters flow a lot better.
I see.
Yeah, but honestly, I think even if I had an OEM filter on it, that motor was kind of hurt already.
Yeah, yeah.
That's why I got it for so cheap. So yeah, but because it was a rebuild, I think it doesn't have frame damage, but someone like cut the hard top off of it and then pulled the seats out. Oh. So they reported it as theft, and then it got the rebuilt title.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because we put it on a frame rack, and it has 0 frame damage.
Nice.
I made sure of that, yeah, so that was cool.
Very cool. I don't think you can find one today at 8. Maybe, I don't know. How's the
rebuilt
price?
title? No way.
Right?
Yeah, I got it at like the perfect time. It was like bad COVID too. The guy that I bought it from was literally wearing a gas mask.
Oh.
Yeah, like peak COVID. I was like almost scared to sit in it. I was like, dude, you have like something we don't know about?
Cool. So what's the first thing you did?
After you bought it? RPF ones like everyone else. Okay. I took the RPF ones off my old car. I kept them after I sold it, and then I threw it on this, yeah.
Okay. And now it's pretty complete, right?
Yeah, I'd say it's complete. The only other thing, the only other thing I think I'd do to it, like in this like setup, is just do a LSD in it. That's kind of like the limiting factor now, but besides that, yeah, there's not much left to do to it. Oh,
are you on stock LSD right now?
Yeah, so it's full stock trans gearing, and then the rear end.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's got the really long gears.
Let's start with the coilover setup, and then maybe the arms and brakes.
So it has RSG spec fuel coilovers.
Okay.
With Swift springs.
Okay.
14K front, 12K rear. A little soft. I've thought about doing 16K squared. Maybe when these need to be rebuilt, I'll do that. But it's been super solid. Like I told you off camera, I bought it with these rates on purpose because I knew eventually I was gonna put aero on it. So it was kind of hard to get used to it without the aero because it was super stiff, but with the aero it was like a game changer. I love these things.
What about arms? Do you have all stock arms?
Yeah, it's all stock in the front. All the arms are OEM, and then in the rear I have like True Heart upper adjustable control arms because those snap a lot, so I just got something stronger. I don't really care about the adjustability. And then in the front I have Jay's Racing like offset camber ball joints just to pull more camber out of it. But besides that, yeah, most of the arms are stock on it. I don't think I have. Oh, I have like Megan toe arms in the back too.
Gotcha.
But yeah, all the like uppers and lowers are all stock.
And it looks like the brakes are stock too.
Yeah, that's one thing that people kind of trip out about, is that it has stock brakes. I've never cracked the rotor, and I've been on these are the same pads that I put in the car when I first bought it.
What do you have in it?
They're Padgett racing pads. They're The fronts, I don't know the number, but the fronts are yellow and the rears are the red ones. I think they only make one set. But yeah, I've never, like everyone has BBKs on S2000s. I've never had a problem with these brakes. They've never faded on me. I've never cracked the rotor. And I've been on the same set of pads for 3 years, so I think that says something. That's like unheard of. I lean on the brakes super hard too.
I see. What about braking force though?
I drove my first my buddy's car at Bunwell last weekend, and he has a BBK, and that was the first time I felt the braking force, and it's definitely a lot better. But to spend $4 grand to pick up like marginal time with the braking force isn't worth it in my opinion. I'd rather spend the money somewhere else. So yeah, until I crack a rotor or something, I've already got an extra pair of these pads to throw in it. So yeah.
Good, very smart. And you're running the Nankang?
Yeah.
CRS?
Okay.
What size are these?
255, 40, 17.
Okay. A square setup?
Yeah.
Cool. Of course, you gotta have the T37, right?
Yeah. They're the evasive spec, so 17 by 10 plus 47, I think. Something like that, yeah. I had ZE40s before, and those were 9.5s. And before that, I had 10-inch Wed Sports. And I could feel the difference going from a 9.5 to a 10 on the same size tire. So I was kind of like, I worked backwards going back to a 9.5, even though they're cooler wheels. So when these popped up, I was like, all right, I'll get them. And yeah, they've been, I love them. I didn't think it would look that good with the wrap, but I love them. It looks great.
Yeah, it looks great.
Because you can't get a 35 sidewall on like a 17 for these.
Oh, got it.
So the extra ½ an inch just stretches the tire a little bit. So it gives you a lot more feedback.
Okay.
And it's a lot more responsive, and it doesn't want to, like if you run a 17 by 9 with this size tire, like I had on my RPF ones, you can literally feel the car rolling because the sidewall is flexing. So yeah, I mean, if they had 10.5s, they would fit stock fenders. I'd put 10.5s on it if I could. Yeah, so it feels, it's just more responsive, and yeah, I don't know, it works way better in my opinion.
Good, good. And what color is the wrap?
It's Nardo gray.
Okay.
Yeah, so me and my buddies, Josh and Rich, wrapped this thing in my garage in like the middle of winter, and it was pouring rain outside. It sucked, but we did it, yeah.
How much did it cost you to wrap the whole thing?
Like $400, I think. Super cheap, better than painting it.
Oh, you guys did a pretty good job.
Yeah. But like you could see it. If this car was still white, it'd be destroyed.
Yeah.
So the wrap definitely works.
For sure. And the hardtop, who makes those?
It's the Mugen RSG hardtop.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about your aero. You got a APR?
Yeah. So this is APR GT250 with the RSG pedestals, so they're like 2 inches taller than the regular ones that come with it. Yeah, it makes actually a lot of downforce, more than I originally thought. I used to run it at like -2, and I ran it like that for a year, and I had crazy high speed understeer. So actually before we went back to Buttonwillow this past week, I put it to 0, and it like changed it dramatically. I don't have that problem anymore. So wish I did that like a year ago.
And you got a gurney flap on it?
Yeah, still have the gurney flap.
Okay. Cool. What about the front?
The front, it's a race bred 4-inch chassis mount. So I have their chassis mount brackets, and then I have APR splitter rods, kind of like in front of where the wheels are. You could probably see them, yeah.
Cool.
And then just a regular CR lip. I used to have a Voltex on it, but I went off super bad at Chuckwalla and exploded it, so no more Voltex. That was expensive.
Very simple.
Yeah. I don't know, it's like full built car, but I did it once and did it right. Like with my old car, I'd buy like the cheap stuff and then it wouldn't work out and I'd sell it for half that I bought it and I'd still end up buying the like good stuff. So I made sure I did it right the first time with this, but a lot of the parts are like, I don't have a Voltex wing, which is like $4,000. Like that wing was like $1,000 and it works. So yeah, doing the most with what I got, I guess.
So it's relatively budget car.
Yeah, besides like the wheels and stuff like that, it's like pretty mainstream. Like you can get all these parts online, shipped to your house in like 2 days.
Yeah.
I don't think I waited that long on anything. I know like that's a huge problem with JDM parts is getting them from overseas. So I skipped most of that, but yeah. And most like, I think everything on this car I bought used too. Wheels I bought used, the hard top, or not the hard top, yeah, like I'd say most of the parts I bought used, besides like the coilovers. I made sure I bought those new. But yeah.
How much do you think you spent so far? Just a rough number.
Including the car?
Yeah. 20K, 30K?
I'd say like somewhere around 30K.
Okay.
Yeah, I blew the motor, so I had it rebuilt top to bottom, so that was pretty expensive, but I wanted to do that rather than just throwing like a used block in it and it potentially blowing up again.
Yeah.
So that was like where most of the money is, yeah.
Yeah, 30 grand may sound like a lot, but in reality, you know, the new car costs are, you know.
For 30 grand, if I had to do it again, I'd do the same exact thing. Yeah, you can't really, like, S2000s are expensive, but once you get them to that point, they're like stout. They're like, I would say it's bulletproof now, yeah, for sure.
Good. All right, let's see what you have under the engine or what you have under the hood.
Yeah.
Are those just covers or did you
Well, they're just vinyl wrapped.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're working headlights though, right?
Nah.
Okay.
When I had a bad off at Chuck Wallow when I destroyed that Voltex bumper, and I think it was this headlight exploded. So they're like cheap eBay headlights that I just vinyl wrapped because the car doesn't get driven on the street. I don't need headlights anyways, so yeah, that was the cheapest way to do it.
Okay, cool. So the engine has been rebuilt, but original to this this chassis. Right?
So it's the original block that came in the car. I blew it up and then I took it to Rockstar and they rebuilt the long block top to bottom. It has like all the AP2 stuff you can put in it that keeps it at F20s is still in it. So it has like AP2 rings. I told them to throw like everything new that they could have put in it. I told them to do it because I wanted to do it right the first time. It's not cheap to pay someone to pull a motor out of your car. So yeah, the whole short block got rebuilt, and then they rebuilt the entire head with full Brian Crowder valve train.
Nice.
So it's still stock port, stock compression, but it's more bulletproof, I guess now. Like you could money shift this thing and it would probably be fine, which is like a really big problem with AP1s. If you over rev them, they'll crack a retainer and blow the motor. So I made sure I did that, especially like revving it to 9,000 is kind of a lot to ask for a car, so just wanted to keep it safe.
What do you rev it to now?
9,000.
9,000.
Yeah.
How much power does it make?
We dynoed it. I just actually got it tuned before this season. It was stock tuned forever. It made like 220 wheel.
Okay.
But when you tune AP1s, at least with the F20, they don't pick up peak power at all. It's all mid-range gain, which helped a lot. So. And it shoots flames now, which is pretty cool. I cared about that more than the power.
For sure. And how much does the car weigh?
The car weighs 2570 without me in it, with like 3/4 tank of fuel.
Okay.
Yeah, so on the lighter side, yeah, I don't think there's much else I could pull weight from. That was actually before I did like the sound deadening and stuff, but that's like marginal weight. It's not gonna be like 10 pounds.
And you just did 155 something, right?
Yeah, 155.6 at Button Willow on
That's quick.
Thursday. Yeah, getting there.
Are you happy with that number?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would be too.
55 and like 54 is like kind of the like threshold for S2000s that are naturally aspirated. Yeah, so I don't know. It's probably going to be super hard now.
Thank you guys for watching. Check out Ryan's story and posting on Instagram. Really looking forward to what you're going to do with this thing and your future cars as well. Yeah. Or any last thing you want to say to the audience?
Yeah, race cars are cool. If you're thinking about doing it, do it because it's super fun.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep it safe, not on the street, take it to the track. We'll see you at the next one.